Researched, produced, and presented by Galen. Camera by Mr. X. Hi, my name is Dennis Galen Mietchik, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today to talk about 9/11. It is Thursday, April 3rd, 2008. So I've been a 9/11 researcher for many years now, and I get a lot of questions, so I'd like to share those questions and the answers to those questions with you. First question, what is the 9/11 Truth Movement, and what are the basic beliefs and mission that tie the people involved in this movement together? Well, the Truth Movement is an international movement that has sprung up shortly after 9/11, the attacks of 9/11, because many people realized right away that something didn't add up with these attacks. I myself, having a background in physics and math, knew that airplanes should not cause a steel frame building to collapse the way these towers collapsed. And every bit of research I've done over the years has only reinforced in my mind. So this is an international movement that began shortly after 9/11, is only gaining strength. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the more notable people in the movement. But there are literally millions of people around the world who know the truth of 9/11, what I'm about to share with you in the next few moments. And what brings us together is a desire to know the truth and to have the truth of 9/11 widely known, and to make sure that it never happens again, and to make sure the people that did it are brought to justice, and to make sure that the wars and all of the things that have been done to take away our constitutional rights are rescinded and our Constitution returned to us. So we want truth, justice, and peace. That's what binds us all together. I'd like to address the next question. How widespread has the 9/11 Truth Movement become? Who are some of the key individuals and organizations involved? Well, as I mentioned just previously, the 9/11 Truth Movement is an international movement, and it is very widespread. In a recent survey done in Ohio, a third of the people surveyed did not believe the government's story about 9/11. And a survey conducted in New York a few months ago, half of the residents did not believe the government's story about 9/11. Some of the key individuals involved in the Truth Movement now are people like Dr. David Ray Griffin, who's a theologian and has now written several books on the topic. Professor Stephen Jones, who's a physicist formerly with Brigham Young University, who has done a lot of great research and on the physical evidence of the controlled demolition of the Twin Towers. And then there are a variety of people associated with the military, like Lieutenant Colonel Bob Bowman, who has said that the government story of 9/11 is impossible. It's a fallacy. It's utterly preposterous. And there are many great people who are coming up in the realm of architecture and engineering and other relevant disciplines, and who are saying that the controlled demolition, the towers could not possibly have fallen down the way they were observed to have fallen down. So the movement is widespread. It's gaining strength every day. There are more people that come on board, and it's all walks of life and all professions, and except with the one exception, government. The government of this country has not come forward. People in other governments have come forward. For instance, Fujita-san very bravely stood up in Japanese government. He's effectively would be a senator, and he spent an hour and a half talking about 9/11 because 24 Japanese citizens were killed, and he said, we've never gotten a satisfactory explanation of how these people died. And he brought up the evidence for controlled demolition. There recently has been a meeting of the European Parliament just in February of this year, where Dr. David Ray Griffin and Fujita-san and other people presented to the European Parliament. There was a film recently done called Zero, done by an Italian politician. So politicians from other countries are coming forward, including Germany, And in Japan, as I mentioned, and Italy, except Cynthia McKinney from the United States government. She's the only person that has really come forward and said that 9/11, that there's something's wrong here. And she was, of course, removed from, voted out of the House once, and then had this fracas with a security guard that would not let her into her office, and was voted out a second time. She's now running for president as a Green. So Cynthia McKinney is the only person brave enough in the United States government to stand up and say, wait a second, something's wrong here. There's the second question. Next question. What is the basic line of reasoning leading to the belief that 9/11 was an inside job? Well, that's a very good question. There's overwhelming scientific evidence to point to the fact, and it's no longer a theory at this point, because a theory is an idea you have that can be verified, it can be proven. The theory of controlled demolition of the World Trade Center is now a fact. It's been scientifically proven. So literally all of the empirical evidence that we have from that day, from the collapse of the World Trade Center, point to the irrefutable fact that it was a controlled demolition. And in section 2 of this video, we will address that in more detail. We'll get into the specifics of that and show you some pictures. And as they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words, so come back for part 2. There's also an immense amount of circumstantial evidence, which we will address in part 3, so I will not talk about that much now, but there is overwhelming circumstantial evidence. For instance, just give a couple examples right now. The stock for United Airlines and American Airlines, there were an inordinate number, like 10 times what would be expected on a normal day, of put options. So people betting on the stock of United and American. Of course, those were the two airlines that were involved in the 9/11 hijackings. Someone was betting on that stock collapsing, and it did in fact collapse. So that is indicative, through circumstantial evidence, of an inside knowledge. So there's plenty more of those. That was just the type of thing that's circumstantial. And then there's also the behavior of the people who we are naming as perpetrators after the fact to cover up the crimes. The 9/11 Commission was a total cover-up. And so the fact that evidence was destroyed at the World Trade Center and at the Pentagon, and the fact that there was this a total whitewash commission was created, and Bush and Cheney did not even testify under oath in front of that commission, and Philip Zelikow, who headed that commission, is a Bush insider. So the fact that there was a cover-up after the fact also leads us to believe that what we're being told is not true. And then the final thing is the Latin question, cui bono, who benefited? If you look at who benefited from 9/11, did Iraq benefit? Did Afghanistan benefit? Did the Arabs benefit from 9/11? Clearly not. The country of Iraq has been destroyed. Afghanistan is reverted to a warring state. So Afghanistan didn't benefit. Fundamental Islam did not benefit. Certainly Iraq did not benefit. The only people that benefited are people like Bush and Cheney and the neocons and other people of this ilk who were ultimately behind this, and we'll talk more about that in a later section.